U.S. recession indicators. Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. Whether or not the U.S. is in a recession has been a topic of discussion, so we're going to look at some indicators about the recession. Starting with list of declining sales in a bunch of different areas. We're going to look at different areas in the economy that are showing drops in sales to get a sense of whether we're in a recession or not. Starting with auto sales. Auto sales have been dropping since 2022. The biggest reason, high interest rates. So why 2022? In October of 2022, the Fed started raising interest rates. As they kept raising interest rates, auto sales declined. Reason being, as interest rates rise, it becomes harder to qualify for an auto loan. That pushes people out of the market, so fewer cars are sold. Housing jobs related. So these are jobs that are related to the housing market. People who are stores that sell furniture, appliance stores, kitchen cabinet makers, general remodeling contractors, painters, roofers, landscapers. This would include flooring people, anything related to housing. Sales are down across the board in all of these. So if you're selling appliances, especially if you're in general remodeling, you know that times are quite difficult, that sales are down. Okay, another area where sales are down, Las Vegas tourism. Las Vegas trips have fallen for the sixth straight month in 2025, and there have been double-digit declines since February 2021. So initially that was caused because the government was shutting down the economy in the U.S. because of COVID. But as time went on, as interest rates rose, as the job market started to weaken, especially right now, people don't really have the discretionary income to travel as much. And so Las Vegas tourism has suffered. It's fallen for the sixth straight month in a row in this year, in 2025. Trips to Disney World, sort of related to travel. Disney World and Disneyland theme park attendance is down. One of the reasons, it's kind of their own fault. They've been raising prices. There are high prices at those theme parks. But the weak job market right now has left consumers with less discretionary income to travel. So guests have been reporting very low wait times, which if you go to a theme park and you hear there are short lines at this ride, that's usually a good thing. But this is bad for Disney World and Disneyland. If there are short wait lines and empty sidewalks, they have suffered declining sales. It's for the same reason that trips to Las Vegas are down, less discretionary income. So another area of declining sales in the economy, home sales. We've had the worst spring selling season in 13 years. So that's over a decade. We haven't had this bad of a spring selling season in over a decade, in 13 years. That's a big deal. Now, so much of the economy is based on home sales, the home sales market, that this is a big problem for the economy. We're not creating housing-related jobs. Home sales are down between 25 to 40% since 2022, 40% in some parts of the country. Interest rates were increased starting in 2022. So as they raised interest rates, just like with auto sales, home sales started to fall. And there's been a large decline in trades jobs related to people getting financing through HELOCs, home equity line of credit. Homeowners who hire tradespeople to get projects done at their home, usually they're big ticket projects. They hire tradespeople to do those. They get financing with a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Because interest rates are so high, HELOCs are harder to qualify for. And so getting financing for home projects has become too expensive. Trades jobs have been suffering because of that, anything related to home improvements. And also, low home sales have hurt trades jobs, the number of trades jobs available. So when home sales are down, because the buying and selling of homes in the economy creates a lot of trades jobs and a large percentage of trades jobs. And when home sales are low, it hurts those who are working in the trades. And a lot of those people are really suffering. So Bank of America did a study recently, and they found that we've had the worst drop in consumer spending since 2008. 2008 was the very start of the great financial crisis, the huge crash in the economy. Back in 2008, Bank of America study, worst drop in consumer spending since the 2008 crash. So that's pretty huge. So these are signs across the economy: autos, jobs related to housing, Las Vegas tourism, Disney World, Disneyland, home sales, trades jobs, and this Bank of America study that found consumer spending has hit the bottom. So So I couldn't fit everything on the board here. So let's talk about the recession definition, the definition of a recession. So for a long time, the definition of a recession was 2 consecutive quarters of declining growth in the economy. But that has morphed. It was morphed. It was slightly altered. And I'll read you the new definition. The new definition of recession, as suggested by some in the Biden administration, emphasizes that it is not solely defined by 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, but rather as a significant decline in economic activity that lasts more than a few months and is visible across various economic indicators. All these different areas, we're seeing low sales, we're seeing jobs not being created, low tourism. Unfortunately, we seem to be in a recession. Are we in a recession? Yes, pretty much. Okay. Home sales are down 40% in some areas. 40% is a huge drop in home sales. Worst spring selling season in 13 years. Luxury goods sales. I described this in yesterday's video. Luxury home sales have not been this bad since the 2008 recession. So we're seeing very poor sales across the economy in a lot of different areas. If you want to watch the video from yesterday about the luxury goods market, all the luxury goods companies are hurting. People just don't have discretionary income. Let's see here. So long-term unemployment is the highest it's been since 2021. That means if you lose your job, if you become long-term unemployed, that's 6 months or longer, that group of people right now, it's the largest group of unemployed people for over 6 months since 2021. And what was going on in 2021? The government was shutting down the economy because of COVID. The number of long-term unemployed people 6 months or longer with no job, it's as bad as when the government was intentionally shutting down the economy. So we're in bad shape. You were definitely in a recession. Okay, so here are some media reports about unemployment. CBS News. Layoffs reached the highest level since 2020. That was COVID when the economy was shutting down. Companies are cutting jobs. A lot of it's because of declining sales. When we have the worst consumer spending drop since 2008, when consumers are buying less from companies, companies are selling less, and therefore they don't need as many employees. They start laying people off. So layoffs are at the highest level since 2020. Okay, this is from MSN.com. The U.S. sees the largest wave of job cuts since the 2020 pandemic. Artificial intelligence is among the key triggers. We've heard about thousands of jobs just vanishing overnight because of AI. Another article said U.S. job cuts reach 806,000 in 2025, the highest level of job cuts for any January through July period since 2020. So another article said layoffs this year, 2025, reached the highest levels since the pandemic. Job cuts announced by U.S. employers this year, 2025, are at the highest level since 2020. This report comes as private sector employment has slowed, and companies like Procter & Gamble, Microsoft, Walmart, and all the other companies that have announced job cuts. So in 2020, the government was shutting down the economy, and we're getting back to the same levels of unemployment and job cuts. And all these declining sales across the economy in all these different areas, auto, jobs related to housing, travel and tourism to Vegas, travel to Disney World and Disneyland, home sales flat as a pancake, trades jobs suffering, credit cards. Credit card debt is now at $1.1 trillion. Credit card debt, $1.1 trillion. To put that in perspective, in 2010, the economy in 2010 was deep in the housing crash. Housing crash started in 2008. It did not fully recover for about a decade. It took a decade of near zero interest rates from the Fed to get the economy to recover. In 2010, the job market was horrific. The housing market was awful. And credit card debt, nevertheless, was only $300 billion. Right now, it's $1.1 trillion, right? So why do people rack up so much credit card debt when the economy is awful? They have no source of income. So credit card debt is 4 times higher than it was during the great financial crisis back in 2010. 4 times higher. It was $300 billion back then. It's $1.1 trillion now, almost 4 times higher. So people are really struggling. So are we in a recession? Yes. According to Biden's definition, we're seeing declines across the economy, throughout the economy. And unfortunately, we're definitely in a recession. And most people know that. Most people know that if you lose your job, you are in big, you're kind of in big trouble right now. So if you have a job, figure out how to, do great work, and try not to be involved in the layoffs. Because as this yesterday the Fed did not lower interest rates, so the Federal Reserve is not going to help. Back in the 2008 crash, the Federal Reserve helped. What they did is they lowered interest rates. They bought the 10-year bond to drop mortgage rates. They're not coming to the rescue. Now, they're stubbornly, digging in their heels. We don't know what to do. We don't know what's going to happen, so we're not changing interest rates is sort of the party line right now. So if you have a job, figure out what to do to stay employed, because the number of long-term unemployed people right now, it's the highest since 2021. There's just millions of people who have been without a job for longer than 6 months. That's the definition of long-term unemployed. Although this is, it's not happy news, it's accurate news, and we need to know if we're in a recession, it helps us plan. For example, if you're wondering about your spending, when you know the facts across the economy that across the economy we're having weakness, it helps you better plan your spending and change spending habits so that you sort of get more into a conservative mode of saving instead of being a spendthrift. Some people love spending money, and I know it's hard to change, but this might be a time to look at your spending habits and sort of adopt the mindset that we will eventually get back to a healthier economy. And for now, I can do anything temporarily, and that includes cutting spending temporarily. I'm not going to spend. I'm going to be a little more cautious about my spending. And just for the next, however long as it takes to get to a healthier job market, because right now the job market is the biggest problem. So if you have any questions about this, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.